Triple pop.
I know, it's been so rare.
Hey guys, whoa. Welcome to one of the lost episodes of CMDTower's Brews and Builds. I don't know why I'm talking in a spooky voice, but that's the way it worked out. I'm Mr. Combo with five of my fellow hosts who may need to rethink our choice today, BigTuck.
Oh, well, I must say hello, wizards and wizardettes, but hold on. Can you hear that? What's happening to me? I can't. What? I'm getting sucked in, Mr. Combo. Mr. Combo, give me your hand. The Roil, it's sucking me in. I'm going into the Roil. Give me your hand. I need your hand. It's chasing me. It's chasing me. The Roil. Give me your hand. Give me your hand. Squeak, help me out. I can't breathe. Can't breathe.
I'm sorry. Progressive doesn't cover me.
Bye, Felicia.
Well, that bit left in the blink of an eye, which is a functional reprint of Into the Roil. Boom!
Jesus. That was just bad.
It feels good. It feels great, actually, if I'm going to be honest.
I do wish y'all could have seen Tuck in his recording environment flailing and really putting the motion.
It's not as fun. I do like to do that where I'm like, to annoy people, where like if you're in like a really shallow pool or like river or something, you're like, help, I can't swim. Josh, I'm drowning. Help.
It was kind of like you were doing the Matrix almost, like leaning back, arms going in a weird circle pattern.
Oh, do the Matrix all day, man.
Who is this? Who is this? And it's Squee. Hi. Anyways, don't get that out of the way.
No, that is a redacted and retired bit.
Unretired and unredacted. Welcome back.
So wait, if you're redacted and retired, is that like where the government makes you go live in like witness protection and you lose all your benefits?
Right. It's like kind of like what happened to R.I.P. Sean Connery in The Rock, where it's just like living in a cell with a bunch of books.
Mm-hmm. Or Snowden.
Yeah, there you go. Person non gratis, if you will.
Well, guys, if you want to know more ways to support banter like this, lost episodes like this, and all the content we put out, you should head over to our sponsor, level1gameshop.com. They sell everything you need from a tabletop game perspective, Magic the Gathering, dice, sleeves, playmats, everything under the umbrella. If you would actually like to put some dollars in our pockets, you could head over to our Patreon, patreon.com/CMDTower. We have 4 different pledge levels. Rewards vary for just $1 a month, getting into the Discord, getting entered for deck therapy, all the way up to $25 a month, where you get tons of entries into the free monthly giveaways from level 1. You also get a set of CMD Tower playmats, sleeves, coins, tokens, and eligible for all future rewards we do for our community. If you guys can't help out from a monthly perspective, but you would like to get your hand on some swag or maybe copies for your friends, head over to our store, cmdtower.com/merch. Sell everything on there. It's a fire sale every day. Please do it.
It's like that. It's like in the Don't Mess with the Zohan, where the store's name is just going out of business.
Never saw the movie, never will.
Oh, it's I'm not gonna lie to you, Mr. Combo. It is quite bad.
Oh, it's on a scale of 1 to 100. I'd give it like a 6.
Yes, that. Even that might be a reach
for the only bit that you just said, the going out of business sign. The rest of it, no value.
Yeah.
Well, if you guys can't help us out financially, whether it's monthly or one time, just share the content you're watching and listening to, because every little bit of interaction from the collective does help. And, of course, big shout out to T Coates. He is our video editor for YouTube. Hit him up. He's always looking for new projects to start tackling at t.coates on the Twitter.
Nice.
So Brews and Builds is our deck tech series. Since we conquered the path to 32, we have moved on to the endless themes that EDH can bring us. Each month will be a new theme, and we correlate how those decks are constructed similar to how beer is brewed. So we broke it down into 4 different categories. The first one's rampant setting your board state. That's grains.
And grains are the foundation of every beer. They include both base malts and specialty malts, usually in a 60-40 ratio. This helps with the color, the taste, and most importantly, the alcohol content of said beer. Decks always need a way to grow, stabilize, and ramp into your bigger threats. And just like a grain profile, they're usually a mix of staples and specialty cards.
Then the next thing to be, how does your board interact with all of your opponents? We call that hops.
And hops give the beer its patented bitterness and herbal floral flavors. They grow in a variety of strands and help distinguish subcategories like IPAs. Our hop choices help clear and interact with the board so your deck can ultimately do what it wants.
And then one of my favorite sections, and today's going to get real greasy. How does your deck actually win the game? We call that yeast.
And yeast are living microorganisms that eat the sugar from the grain and poop out alcohol and CO2. It adds alcohol content and carbonation. Without yeast, you'd be drinking flat sugar water. And without yeast cards, your deck wouldn't meet the goal of actually winning the game.
Then we have shenanigans. This can be pet cards, random synergies that are in the deck that are just kind of fun. We call that spice.
And not every beer has them, but spices and other additives help separate a normal stock beer from a specialty one. It could be the pepper that turns a stout into a jalapeno stout, or the addition of citrus and a kick of spiciness in this intergalactic Warzerd from our friends up north at the Toppling Goliath. That kind of give it a little bit of a punch. Not every deck has something that makes it pop, but if it does, this is where we generally talk about it.
And then we have a bottle capping. And as a reminder, these would be... Wait a minute. We don't even have a deck to do a bottle capping for. What? I think we're going to Frankenstein this bitch.
Yeah!
Let's get brewing. So today we're doing something we've never done before. We thought it'd be kind of fun. We're going to be brewing a deck on the fly.
Woo!
So, love it.
We're going to be starting off with You're a Wizard, Kaza, with Kaza Roil Chaser.
Yeah.
This is actually BigTuck's win from the Drinkathon. And as we all know, he's going through a bit of a midlife crisis, dismantling all of his children, and he has lots of spare parts lying around.
Except for Dargons.
So,
Dargons are staying. Just a heads up for all of the collected.
It's like I realize that I've sowed my seeds too much, and I'm like, I just don't need half these kids, so we're just scrapping them for parts. Take them to the bone miser.
What a father! What a father!
And so we were trying to think of what to do for this lost episode, and I don't know whose idea it was, but it came up to just, hey, you got to build that deck. Why don't we build it on the fly on the cast and just see what we come up with? And I think it met with a resounding applause.
Yes.
So, Tuck, why don't you read what Kaza Roil Chaser does? And then why don't you just give us a couple minutes of where you think the direction of the deck should go?
So we can also cast our fly into the Royal as we go ahead and chase it. So Kaza Roil Chaser is a pretty cool card. I think we actually talked about it with Oob when we talked about our Zendikar Resurgence, whatever the hell that deck type is. That doesn't matter. But anyways, she, I believe, is a 1/2 legendary creature human wizard for the low cost of blue. It is of blue and a red. She has flying and haste, and she's also a legendary creature human wizard. And then she taps, and the next instant or sorcery spell you cast cost X less to cast, where X is the number of wizards you control as this ability resolves. So, it's one of those colors that I can't... I built a Mizzix deck relatively soon after it came out, and it's kind of been one that I've always had, tinkered with it over the years, and it's just kind of gotten to the point where it's not really fun to play. It kind of does the same thing every time. I tried to build a Locust God to do something a little bit different. That one played like a worse version of my Nekazar deck, which is a deck I actually like to play quite a bit. So I thought by kind of breaking them down for parts, we can kind of find a middle ground for something that's not played too much. So I think I'm hoping that it's going to play kind of like Mizzix in the sense where we're going to try to get to the point of casting big spells, right?
Sure.
At the discount. But I think I like the idea of getting there with the tribal theme of wizards, right? As opposed to just sitting there and casting like, all right, Mizzix, now I'm going to cast a 1-drop. Now I'm going to cast a 2-drop.
Sure.
Now I'm going to cast a 3-drop. And I want it to kind of turn into the mix of the Locust God and Mizzix, where it can kind of win through a few different avenues, which I'll get more to in my Yeast. But it's not just a spell slinger. You have creatures. I like attacking. I think it makes games more fun and dynamic. And I feel that this deck, if built right, will kind of give me a little bit more fun playing an Is It build.
No, I think that's a great idea to kind of go to. Before the elephant leaves the room, you and I both failed. We should not have made this a Harry Potter reference. We should have totally made it a Back to the Future one, because that's clearly Marty McFly on his skateboard.
Yes.
Okay, well, what if we call it Kaza?
Hoverboard, sir.
Yeah,
hoverboard.
I do like that. It is kind of like that. What's that song? I'll figure it out. But yeah, it's Marty McFly. Right. That's the altar.
So I definitely looked at this very similar to you. I'm trying to look at ways to have Kaza untap and untap multiple times in a turn. So then that way you could severely reduce the next instant sorcery spell. And the way I'm kind of looking at the deck is actually a healthy balance of actual wizards you put in the deck and then just other things that make lots of tokens. Maybe they're wizards, maybe they're not. And I actually see this kind of being an altered version of UnkoAJ's deck. The very first one he did on Brews and Builds, where he did with Melik. Where it was kind of like this token reduction, making tons of big token spells. And so I can kind of see Kaza filling in a little bit there. Of course, you could just go the general is it section, but I'm super excited for the Yeast section because I have some 4, 5, and 6 card wombos that I think will get you semi-hard.
I'm here, man. I'm already, like I said, I was a hard 6:30 earlier, so.
So, of course, we don't have any stats for the deck, so we haven't built it yet. So what I thought we would do, though, is talk about its stats on EDH Rec.
Oh,
and maybe
cool.
that'll kind of give us a little bit of guidance as we're doing our picks. Are we aligning with what other people are doing with their decks? So currently right now, Kaza Roil Chaser, there's only 222 decks with her as a commander.
Ooh, okay.
Not surprising, because people would probably rather run Mizzix because it's just a better version of it. Lands, 33 lands. That actually seems a little low to me. I would have gone like 35 being in these colors. What are your thoughts?
Same here. You just don't have... like in these colors, you just do not have access to any sort of ramp or anything like outside of artifacts, and you really need to hit your land drops to get there. Probably not, but that's okay.
Felwarstone. I like that. That's
if you will. Icy Manolith, whatever that one was called. So I think with that low lands, you really need to be able to consistently hit your mana drops. You need to be able to draw into cards. And I think even if you do have more lands, if you play cards where you draw cards, have to pitch them, it makes it that much easier to not have to worry about if you only have 33 lands or, I would say I would probably run 36 to be honest. You can always have stuff to pitch and not have to worry about having to dig it out of your graveyard at a later time.
So another couple interesting things I have on here. The average deck has 24 creatures, but only 8 artifacts. And really, when I look at this deck, I would probably run 17 to 20 creatures, but probably 12 to 15 artifacts. And that would include things to protect Kaza. It's going to include your mana rocks. There's artifacts out there that, kind of like the Lithoform engine that do really good with big spells. What are your thoughts on 24 creatures and only 8 artifacts?
I think it's probably I would probably agree it's a little high. I think that you can play it such that, and through my research, I've watched the videos and some other things, even from any budget considerations you're looking at, there's a lot of good utility cards you get from wizards that can add mana, can reduce casting costs, can draw and discard cards. So I think even if you're, we've talked before on the show that, if you're running a tribal deck, you want to try to keep at least 20 in there just so that you're making sure you're hitting them. Sure. And I think that you can run 20 wizards in this deck fairly easily. Also agree on the artifact front, because I'm the way I'm looking at it, 8 of those, however many artifacts, are probably just going to be ramp and various versions of that, just to make sure that you're hitting your goals here.
No, I think that's a fair point.
Yeah.
And I think this is pretty interesting. Only 3 enchantments and 1 planeswalker in the deck. For me, I think the planeswalker number's right. The enchantment one surprises me, though, because this seems like you're trying to sling spells, and there's a lot of really good enchantments that help you do that.
Yeah, I think it gets tough because normally when you're running these Izzet colors, the creature counts 8 or 6 sometimes, right? And that kind of opens it up. So I think you kind of have to be pretty choosy with your enchantments. I pretty much agree with the planeswalkers. Most of the Izzet ones, I think, are all Ral Zarek or some form of it. So if you wanted to be cute, you could do this could be my backup Ral Zarek deck, but that just seems like a lot of effort for what you get out of it.
And then the last stat that I actually think is pretty perfect is the instant and sorcery combination. 30 cards in the deck. That seems about right.
Yeah, I think so. And I think you really want it to be, if you break it down into kind of thirds, you want it to be close to a third wizards, probably a little less than that, right? And then the casting spells and instants and sorceries can also do another third, and then the rest of your utility stuff comes into the last third, and then the rest of your decks. That's probably about right. And in these colors, there's so many options for spells, you're going to be able to find anything that you need pretty readily.
Yeah, no, I think those are good points. So let's go ahead and get in this thing. Let's start brewing this deck literally on the cast. BigTuck, since this is going to be your commander, I'm curious, what's the first card you think you're going to add in for your grain?
So this is definitely an Izzet Spellslinger sort of standard or staple, but I think it works great because Goblin Electromancer is actually a wizard, which is nuts. So Goblin Electromancer is a colorless and a blue for creature goblin wizard. Instant sorcery spells you cast 1 less to cast. Result 752, Rapid Mass Distribution. Result 753, Calamitous Reverse Synthesis. Result 754, Acute Disarrayment. Result 755, BigTuck's accent work is slowly getting better. And these are all ironically as research notes. So the thing that I think is really cool with this one is it's reduces spells, which is huge, right? But in this deck, I honestly think that the right play would almost be, because everyone would say get it out as soon as you can because it reduces, right? But I would actually, I would play it. You go Kaza first, rather, right? And then the turn after that, do your Electromancer. Because then now your spells are already, any instant and sorcery is already reduced by Raza by 3. Right, because it's one from herself, one from the Electromancer, and then one from his static ability. Again, it's not the most. It sucks. Like, I wish I could feel better about this pick, but the fact that it just works out very well that it's also a wizard that plays into this theme. And I think something I didn't mention up top is I'm kind of hoping that this deck is going to be very explosive comparative to like Mizzix and Locust God.
Yeah, no, I think that's a great pick. I think in any type of Spellslinger deck, if it's in Izzet colors, which it will be unless you're playing Ward, right, you have to have this card in here. Yeah. Like, it's almost like running an Edgar Markov deck, but not having Butcher of Malakir in. Yeah,
right.
Why wouldn't you do that?
Yeah, definitely. And it's a 2/2, so it can deter someone from attacking you at some point.
Yep. All right. So for my first one, I wanted ways in this deck for you to be able to use, because I know that you're very much a top-down person like me when you like to deck build. And I think these new cards that came out in Commander Legends, where you get to choose one or the other, and if you control your commander, you get to do both. I thought that had a lot of legs, especially in red. So Jessica's Will is a card that I think makes so much sense, especially in the early game. So 2 colorless red, it's a sorcery. Choose one. If you control a commander, as you cast a spell, you may choose both. Add 1 red for each card in target opponent's hand. Exile the top 3 of your library. You may play them this turn. Gather your strength. Prepare yourself. Jessica Dorada.
So Jessica is Mickey Mouse. I'm writing that down.
Correct.
Mickey Mouse or what was that? Shrek? Not my gumdrop buttons.
The gingerbread man, even better.
Or no, he wasn't the gingerbread man. He was Gingy.
Thank you. I would hate for the gingerbread man's IP to come after us.
So I look at this card, Tuck, and all honestly, you could play this on turn 2 after casting your commander. And just think how backbreaking that is from an advantage standpoint. Turn 1, you go your island into Soul Ring, maybe into a Signet of some kind, Arcane, whatever. Yeah. Turn 2, you get your mountain, tap them, you play your commander, tap your commander, you use your other 2 rocks to be able to get it reduced, pay for the red and the colorless. But now, because it's early game, someone probably has 7 cards. Yeah. Get 7 red to your mana pool and exile the top 3 of your library. Even if you end up hitting an X spell a little early in the game, you're going to be able to do it for devastating effects early on. Right. But most likely, you're probably going to get into more like token generation. Maybe it's like a big creature. Right. There's just a lot that you're going to be able to do with it.
Yeah, I'm here for it, and I'm glad that this is already starting to go down in price, because this was like almost $14 last time I checked.
Oh wow! Yeah,
it's wild. And even then, I think even with the sequencing of events, even doing this, even worst case scenario, like turn 1 Gataxian Probe or whatever, right? Like draw a card. Sure. Turn 2 Commander. maybe swing in for one just for the kicks of it, right? And then turn three, and then worst case scenario, if you have a mountain and an island in your hand, Jessica's Will on turn 3, same thing, right? Just as backbreaking, filter out the crap from the top of your deck, and especially and again to your point with the top cards, I'm planning on playing brainstorms and ops and all that stuff to kind of do your top deck manipulation. So you can, if you do see one of those big X spells, you're like, okay, I can hold on to that later. Maybe just get some incremental value up early. But no, the card is just absolutely busted. It's incredible.
Yep. All right, Tuck. What's your second grain?
So similar to BigTuck brewing. This guy is brewing some trouble. So I want to talk about an older card, Alfetto Alchemist. So it's a colorless and a blue for a creature, human, wizard. You can play it as a morph if you're an insane person, or you can just play it and just play it normally. But you can tap and you can untap target artifact or creature. And it is a wizard. It's a 1/2. So for me, the big part of this deck that I want to get into is being able to untap her, retap her for either a big giant X spell or multiple spells in a turn. And this guy happens to do both of those, right? It's a wizard, so it automatically reduces the count of the spells from Kaza's ability. Plus, if you're in a pinch, you can also untap one of your artifact rocks to kind of speed you forward, right? So even though it's not a true Llanowar elf in that sense, it kind of is the best that we can do in this sort of thing. So you can use it for ramp, you can use it for your commander, tons of utility, and it's a wizard.
Yeah, I think this is cool. Any way that you can tap your commander to get extra reduction is always something worth looking at. This being $2, I don't know if it's worth $2.
It's like, not well. There's
being Ani.
This is the cheaper version of this effect too. There's another one that's even more expensive. So.
Oh wow.
Yeah.
But no, I definitely think something like this is gonna do work. I think the biggest thing is just trying to find that balance of big splashy spells and things that further Kaza along the spectrum.
Yep, definitely.
All right. For my next one, this one is a little bit meat and potatoes, but
is it Signet?
Is it hot soup?
No. Yeah. No way.
No, of course not.
Oh damn! I was like, wow. You were taking a drastic left turn. You were taking a drastic left turn on how I thought this deck was going to be built.
Too hot.
No, we're talking about Murmuring Mystic.
Oh yeah, slam dunk.
3 colorless blue, creature, human, wizard. It's a 1/5. Rumors flow through the city like crows, alighting on citizens seemingly at random. I try to make that sound like an ominous, like church thing. Like
I didn't know that you were an alto.
You gotta go slower and lower, baby.
No. All right. So whenever you cast an instant or sorcery spell, create a 1/1 blue bird illusion creature token with flying. So you're gonna the way that I see this deck working is that you're making a lot of tokens, casting a lot of instants and sorceries, and having those tokens as somewhat as blockers. But then we have some tricksy stuff later on that I'll get to that'll make it even cuter.
Ooh.
But I think in general, usually you would consider, hey, if I'm making tokens to block, that's more of a hops thing. Well, you're not really making tokens in a deck in response to what your opponents are doing. You just need that as your base defense.
Yep.
And I think making a bunch of flyers just when you're doing the stuff that you naturally want to do is great. Plus, it is a wizard, so it does help for the cost reduction as well.
Yep.
So I think it does a few things on a few different fronts.
Yeah, definitely. And I don't know if we're talking about it because at this point it's redundant, but like Talran Sky Summoner happens to be a wizard, right? So again, for me, both these cards are really good in any Izzet Spellslinging deck, but the fact that for some reason they're both wizards makes them even better, right?
For the record, it would appease the courts if we, similar to the Dargon episode, every time you say wizard, had to throw Harry right after it. It's a wizard, Harry.
So for example, I would say it's Murmuring Mystic is 3 colors and a blue. It's a creature, human, wizard, Harry. Whenever you cast an instant sorcery spell,
exactly.
Okay, I'm game. I'm here.
You're trying to sneak it in like they do the right meow.
Yeah. Yes. Exactly. That's what we're trying to do. That's an ace pit. Okay,
boy. Pass
I'm
around
here-
from
I'm
tree to
here
tree,
for it.
all nimbly bimbly.
All right. Tuck, you got one more for us, man.
I do.
What is it?
Ooh, he's
I'm
excited.
really excited about this one because this Wizard Harry is something that gives you tons of utility and really turns your deck into a scroll book. So, and it specifically targets my least favorite tribe in the game of Magic.
Slivers.
Yeah, you are 100% correct. we were talking about Veldalken Aether Mage. This card is incredible. Colorless in a blue. It's a creature of Veldalken Wizard Harry. It has Flash. When it enters the battlefield, return target sliver to its owner's hand. But it has Wizard Harry cycling for 3. So for 3 colorless mana, you discard this card, search your library for a Wizard Harry card, reveal it, put it into your hand, and then shuffle your library. This is the best drain card in this entire deck. For 3 mana, I can go and get whatever I want of any creature and put it directly to my hand at instant speed that can't be countered. It's insane. And the best part is because only a mental person like myself would even know that this card exists, which I did before this episode because there's a very weirdo because Marquesa the Black Thorn is a Wizard Harry, so there's this weird builds that you build Grixis Wizard Harry with her, and now I can use that knowledge for exploit in this very deck.
I'm so happy you're committed on the Wizard Harrys, by the way. This is just cracking my shit up.
I don't know what to say about this. I refuse to call the mages by their true name, so I don't have to do the bit.
Oh, that's fine. I'll do it for both of us.
And but yeah, this Aether Mage, who is a Veldalken W, I wouldn't see it coming because usually it's not like there's creature tutors.
Right.
At all.
Yeah. Right. None. This is it.
There's a lot of Wizard
Isn't it
Harrys,
insane?
though.
But it's so good.
Oh, God damn it. My creature is a Wizard Harry.
Yeah.
Yes.
Does that feel good?
You broke
Does
the
that
seal.
feel good? Be honest.
You broke the seal.
All right. So I'm actually talking about if you guys aren't familiar, Ultra Budget Brews over at EDH Rec. Melik Izzet Paragon.
Oh, yeah, sure.
So 4 colorless Izzet, legendary creature, weird Wizard Harry.
Yeah.
It's a rare. It's a 2/4. Play at the top card of your library revealed. You may cast instant and sorceries from the top of the library. Whenever you cast an instant or sorcery spell from your library, copy it. You may choose new targets for the copy. I think being able to see the top of your library, to see your brainstorms, to see your other effects early game and even mid game is going to help you so much. Especially since it's not just like Future Sight, where you just get to look at it. At least you get to cast stuff from the top. And then it's even going to be more instrumental late game when you actually have a bunch of Wizard Harrys on the battlefield. You'll be able to just churn off the top.
Right.
And yeah, you could hit a Wizard Harry, but I guarantee you're probably going to hit more instant and sorceries than Wizard Harrys.
Well, and I think what's really interesting here is that what I'm realizing is that all of the Izzet commanders, all the big ones, including Mizzix, almost to a T, are all Wizard Harrys, right?
Oh, yeah.
So, like, I don't know, there's a certain dragon that you may or may not be talking about at some point, so I don't want to spoil it, but every copy of that card, of that specific Izzet dragon, is a Wizard Harry, right? So now you can kind of build this, like, bizarro backup commander of all these other decks that Wizard Harry decks would be built out of, right?
Sure. Lord, let's get out of the grain section and move on to hops.
We're gonna break and Mr. Combo. Break and Mr. Combo. You guys, now if I am anything, I'm a man who commits to a bit.
Oh, I'm so
All
happy.
right, so for my first hops card, I'm going to talk about a card that gets heavily played in mono black because they don't have ways to deal with enchantments. It does not get played in any other color except for maybe colorless because its CMC is so high.
Oh, I know exactly what you're talking about.
Kaza can make this thing cheap to free, which makes it a slam dunk.
Right.
You gotta have Scour from Existence in the deck. So this costs 7 colorless, and it's an instant at 12 pennies. So pennies on the dollar. I'm sure you have a bunch of them laying around.
I think there was a time where I was really hot on this, and I think I bought like 15 copies for $1 from a store.
Yeah, there you go. So it says, our people and our very lands disappear as if they never were. We no longer fight for glory or honor. We battle now for the right to exist.
I really
General
like where these
Tazri,
accents are
Commander.
going. These are great.
Evidently, General Tazri is a
diversifying
3. General Tazri it turns out she's a 3-pack a day smoker. or a better bit is like, do you smoke cigarettes or eat them?
So it says exile target permanent.
Yeah.
I mean, it's a very clean, easy card. Yes, you're an Izzet, so you could be doing counter magic instead. But sometimes, and this does happen, believe it or not, you don't have a counter spell when you need it for a troublesome permanent, and you're gonna have lots of wizards, and just to be like, free spell, or even leave up a single blue. Damn it. Leave up a single blue, you tap it, and if you have 6 Wizard Harrys, then you only paid a swan song for it.
Yeah, I agree. And like I think you bring up a really critical piece where when you're building these Izzet decks, people want to say, I'm running every single counter spell, right? But that only helps you situationally, right? And like many times, unless you're running a weird build, you're going to be able to counter a spell a turn. Right. So being able to deal with those troublesome permanents is really going to be helpful.
Yeah, because I'll say this, whenever I play the counter spell player at a table, everyone's all scared like, oh man, they probably have counter magic. It's like, just play your cards. I guarantee you that we have more cards between the 3 of us than they have counter spells. That's just the way it works.
Exactly. Which is one of the reasons why I hate playing them.
All right, Tuck. What's your first hops card?
So speaking of counter spells, this guy is an expensive one. He's an expensive Wizard Harry, but he is the Patron Wizard Harry. Triple blue for creature, human, Wizard Harry. Tap an untapped Wizard Harry you control. Counter target spell unless its controller pays 1. The best way to teach is by example. It's about $9 because thankfully we finally got the much needed reprint out of it from the list. So, there's just piles of this card lying around and being cracked left, right, and center. Thanks for that one. Yeah, so I watched the channel for...
Wait, hold on. What's the card name? Did you even say it?
Yeah, it's Patron Wizard Harry.
Oh, gosh, damn it. The damn Wizard Harrys are getting me confused. What are Wizard Harrys?
You're just typing in Patron Wizard Harry. There's nothing here. So I watched a Sorcery game video for adults a long time ago, and one of them were playing some Wizard Harry deck. I don't remember who the commander was or anything, and this card just was brutal. It stops people. It's like someone tried to cast a spell. They're like, okay, do you want to pay 1 for that? How about 2? What about 3? No? Okay, I didn't think so. So the one thing, and like we'll see this theme recurring in the Wizard Harrys, is a lot of them say tap an untapped Wizard Harry you control, not without the tap signal. Right, so you can tap this the turn it comes down. You can tap anything else. Just has a lot of really interesting interactions there. And I think playing a card like this kind of helps. This fills in for a repeatable counterspell that you don't have to run, Force Spike and Stubborn Denial or whatever.
Yeah, I like it. Plus, the artwork looks like he's some groupie for Journey, possibly likes to travel on a world tour, or U2. Yeah, because clearly he's retired.
A lot of earrings in the Wizard Harry world, which is weird.
Yeah, lots of Wizard Harry earrings. So I like the card a lot. I think this would even be a cool little non-bow. It's not a Wizard Harry, but like Kira Great Glass Spinner, to where it's like you have all these countering effects, but then someone's like, I gotta get rid of this, and it's like, oh well, that's gonna get countered the first time you do it, and it's almost like this weird board lockdown that no one can really get out of. And then if you have a way to make a token each turn and do gross things with a gross enchantment that I'll be talking about later, then it's just like almost no one gets to resolve anything. And it's because I feel like this deck is very slimy. I'm not going to say it's sweaty, but I think the deck's very slimy, and that you kind of have to have the perfect board state to kind of get it to do its thing. And having like this type of protection on a thing that doesn't even require a tap symbol is great.
Yeah, and I think you also bring up a good point where most Izzet decks run piles of removal and board wipes because they don't really care about their creatures, whereas this deck really needs those creatures to stick to be able to keep the engine churning.
For sure. All right. My second Hops card. I once again, it's trying to go a little bit out of the box. Kaza, with her reduction, makes these kind of cards playable, in my opinion. This one isn't as bad as others, but Curse of the Swine, especially with the fact that Kaza could possibly add 5 or 6 into its mana, is great. So X blue sorcery, exile X target creatures. For each creature exiled this way, its controller puts a 2/2 green boar creature token onto the battlefield. Another imminent battle subsided in busy snuffling and carefree rooting.
That's like an Obama. I kind of like that, right? With the
I was trying to go for Captain Kirk a little bit.
Okay.
But I really like this, especially with a commander that progressively is. It's kind of like your Mizzix deck. You liked the X spells in there because it got progressively better as your game went on. And I think this is giving you a taste of it, but it's not as broken as what Mizzix can be broken.
I completely agree. And if we reference a card that you mentioned earlier, Jessica's Will, this is a great card, a great low end X spell to get off that first. If you're exploding out, right? And
sure, but you still need that 2 blue.
True,
that could be an issue.
That's true. That's very true. But if you can, this is something where if you can get it, play Kaza next turn, reduce it by 1, and then getting this for 4, getting 2 creatures, that might be enough grease to get to prevent someone else from exploding out if they're running a bunch of elves or other sort of mana dorks.
Yeah. Completely agree on that. And honestly, it's super underplayed, and I'm kind of surprised that it's at $1.20 because I never see
never
it.
been reprinted. And again, it's that exile that's so critical, right? Like even paying in blue 3 to exile a creature and they get a 2/2 out of it is also insane at the right time, right?
Yeah. All right, Tuck, what's your second Hops?
So much like it's Goblin Compatrick, this Wizard Harry I also run in piles of blue decks, and it just gets even better in this. So I want to talk about our old pal. It's a blue standard, borderline blue staple in my ever so humble opinion, Archaeomancer. So Archaeomancer is 2 colorless blue. It's a creature, a human Wizard Harry. When Archaeomancer enters the battlefield, return target instant sorcery from your graveyard to your hand. Words of power never disappear. They sleep, awaiting those with the will to rouse them. And it's a 1/2. So I just like this card for a lot of reasons. It gives you a body. It gets you an instant of sorcery. If you do, unfortunately, have to burn a big X spell early in the game just to live, it gets that back. If you need your draw spell, it kind of turns your graveyard into a little bit of a toolbox. So that's why I like it a lot in normal. But again, just the fact that it's a wizard makes it even better in this deck, right? It's kind of nuts how, or damn it, it's a Wizard Harry. Excuse my French. Excuse my Hogwarts. So that's kind of, again, it's very meat and potatoes. Definitely nothing too exciting here. But I would run this in this deck even if it wasn't a Wizard Harry. And the fact that it is makes it that much better.
Yeah, I've always been in the camp that I like Archaeomancer, but 4 mana at sorcery speed, I don't know if it really does it for me.
You don't love it?
I don't love it. I like it.
Sure.
And obviously it is a good card because grabbing instant sorceries from your yard to your hand and it doesn't put any other condition on it is pretty cool. It's one of those cards that like, oh, I need to put this in here. And then I always end up cutting it. Really? It's just like, 4 for a 1/2 that does a thing. Mm-hmm. I mean, honestly, I wouldn't pay 4 mana for a sorcery that does this. To me, I'd be like, I mean, you get on me on the green one. Like, dude, just the green colorless, grab a target permanent, or is it target spell from your graveyard to your hand?
Depends on which one. The one that you run is a green card for 2.
Yes, but you go get mad at me because I should run the other one that's just grab target card
for 2
from the graveyard. And I think, and that's cheaper than this, and it grabs anything you want. So, I don't know. It's cute for this deck.
Right.
I could definitely see this, though, being on the chopping block once you finally get down to your 110, 120 cards, and it's like, do I really want this in here just to grab
or something
X-Spell again? Or do I just want another X-Spell?
Yeah, right. And I think it's also there's some, because you can get this effect at a cheaper cost if you run it as like an instant or sorcery, right? You kind of get into this debate of, do I want more Wizard Harrys for this small incremental thing, or do I want something to be more explosive off of Raz's ability and worry less about the bodies on the ground, right? And to your point, I do feel like that's going to be something that's only going to happen after I've like run it a couple times and been, okay, too many Wizard Harrys, right? Not enough big game ending spells.
Yep. Yeah. For sure.
What do you got next?
All right, we'll go to my last hops, and this is a counter spell. I'm putting one in, shocker. But this is a counter spell that I think ends up on the chopping block for a lot of people because it is a 5 mana counter spell. But I was still, once again, going with the thought process that you are trying to have your commander on the battlefield at all times, because the deck, that's really where it's going to shine and function. So it wouldn't really be 5 mana. It'd probably only cost blue, what Counterspell costs, but with massive upside. Spell Swindle.
Yeah.
100% slam dunk.
It's really good.
So, instant, $2.80, counter target spell, create X colorless treasure artifact tokens, where X is that spell's converted mana cost. They have tap, sack, add sack the artifact, add 1 mana of any color to your mana pool. No flavor text, thank God. So, I think this is a good card in general, but I think this does come down to the chopping block in a lot of decks, because it's like, God, 5 mana for a counter spell. I'd rather run Arcane Denial or Disallow. But I think in this deck, unless you just have a banger spell to do on your turn, you're probably saving Kaza's tap ability for other people's turns, whether you're even looting on their turns or you're doing counter magic or interaction of any kind. And so I think Spell Swindle will always, for you, at most, cost what Disallow costs, but with way more upside. Best case scenario, it'll probably just cost you what Counterspell costs.
And I think you bring up a really good point of when I was doing the shower thoughts on this deck, as I was doing today. Retired bit, but we're bringing it back on the series of tubes here. I think that when I'm building this deck, I think too linear. When I first started thinking through this, I keep forgetting that this is something you can do on other people's turns, right? Yeah. You don't need to just come swinging out and be like boom, 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 value on your turn. Even though because it has haste, it kind of tricks your brain into thinking that way, right?
Sure.
But in reality, this is another deck where you're playing. To your point, the way I can kind of see it is you're on the ground getting in damage on your turn and then just waiting, right? And saying like, what can I cast at what time to get the most value out of it, right?
Yep.
Yeah, that's a good one. I like that a lot.
All right. Well, round us out. What's your last hop card?
So this was a slam dunk in the former, it came in the Wizard Harry Precon, and I'm guessing it's just too pricey mana wise as to why it's not. I'm not seeing it many builds. Is Gale Caster Colossus. So it's a 5 colorless, which is a lot. Blue creature, giant Wizard Harry. Tap an untapped Wizard Harry you control. Return target non-land permanent you don't control to its owner's hand.
Yeah.
Ground bones, broken glass, and splintered strip bricks make up the sand of his shores. So again, I like running an ultimate amount of these tap and untapped Wizard Harry you control at whatever speed you want, right? Even if they have summoning sickness or anything like that. And I kind of feel that this isn't included in a lot of decks because they're expecting it to run out and win games very quickly. As we made mention, unless you have the perfect draw and you have that monster Jessica's Will out the gates, you're going to end up getting into later turns. And I think that this card, while you're running your Wizard Harrys on the ground who aren't doing very much, will give you a lot of utility in removing troublesome creatures, enchantments, smothering ties, planeswalkers, and all that stuff. If it was if it was just creature or something more narrow, then I would also probably think it's kind of bunk. But I've seen this. I've played against this card enough to know that when it comes down, it's kind of terrifying.
It's a little sweaty because of how much mana it is, but I think it's actually going to work out really, really well with what my Yeast package is going to talk about. Because let's just say we're making a lot of wizards.
Wizards, what kind of wizards, Harrys, are we talking about?
Harrys.
Okay, cool. I don't know.
Wait, are they wizard wrong?
I was just gonna say that. Or are they wizard wrongs?
Oh man. So yeah, I think 7 mana is a lot.
Yeah.
I think unless you can ensure you're going to have 5 to 7 wizards on your board, plus a way to kind
Wizard
of
Harry's
do some
what?
untapped
Again?
shenanigans. Sorry, Wizard Hermione's. I think
I can see the life draining out of you as this bit continues.
So it's just 7 mana is a lot. I think it's way too high end for what little impact it does, especially because it says return target non-land permanent you don't control to its owner's hand. If it was just return target permanent you don't control to its owner's hand, then maybe I could justify it for the 7. But 7 just to bounce non-land permanent, you could do that anyways in blue.
True. This is a repeatable way to do it, though, right? Including
one
itself.
permanent at a time.
Right, but I'm saying you don't need to...
Versus the other blue ones, you could bounce someone's entire board for 5 mana.
And your board as well, unless it's River Rebuke, just like how you got hosed.
Yeah. Hey, go to hell. That happened many life forms ago.
Who knows how long ago that is. So again, I hear you on the casting cost, but my personal experience with this card is that it's very strong. So I think it would be one. I feel like this would be one where I have to play test the deck to even see if I get to 7 mana at any point, right? Or if it's just entirely too slow.
All right. Well, that's going to wrap up Hops. Now we're going to head over to Yeast, and we're going to do something a little bit different today. If you guys had listened to us when we're not lost in the multiverse, we usually pick 3 cards that are in a Yeast package. But since there is no strategy or deck list to work off of, we're actually going to talk about our game-winning wombos, combos, non-bows, homunculus bows. It's all of the above. So we're going to have multiple cards to talk about, and... good luck, video editor. So I'll just go ahead and kick this one off. The first one is a 5-card combo.
Love it. Already in.
It's not infinite, so I know you'll love it even more. So this one is going to be using the perks of Arcane Adaptation, or even the likes of that other artifact that came out in Kaldheim. That way you can make a lot of the tokens that I talked about earlier into Wizard Harrys. So what you do is you have Kaza on the battlefield, you have Arcane Adaptation on the battlefield, and you have Intruder Alarm on the battlefield. So for the cards that people aren't familiar with, Arcane Adaptation or this other artifact that I mentioned basically just makes all of your creatures into either all creature types, or you pick a creature type and everything is that. So we're obviously picking wizards. Intruder
Wizards
Alarm,
what?
Creatures
Wizard Harry Dracos?
There we go. Intruder Alarm, whenever creatures do not untap during their untap phases, and whenever a creature enters the battlefield, untap all creatures. So what we're going to do with that in Kaza is tap Kaza to kick Right of Replication.
Okay.
So, Right of Replication, 2 colorless blue, but BigTuck will be casting it for 7 blue, which most likely with Kaza will probably cost around 5 total mana.
Yeah.
You'll probably at least get a 4 reduction, I would guess. Put a token onto the battlefield that's a copy of target creature. If Right of Replication was kicked, put 5 of those tokens on the battlefield instead. So when you do this, Kaza will be tapped, Right of Replication's cast, resolves, hopefully. You make a copy of whatever you want. Just pick the best thing on the battlefield.
Sure.
It doesn't really matter. If there's an Avenger or Zendikar, I think you win the game on the spot. But you're going to get 5 ETB triggers on Intruder Alarm. And as each one resolves, Kaza untaps, you tap it again, and because those 5 are now Wizard Harrys, each time you tap Kaza, you're going to get 6 reduction on your next instant and sorcery. So you're actually going to get a 30 reduction on the spell to then use whatever X spell you want to and just either kill someone or win the game. So that is my first Yeast winning combination. It is very sweaty.
Yeah, it's so.
Do you approve?
I like it a lot. I am likely not going to be running Arcane Adaptation or Intruder Alarm in this deck.
I'll have another one that'll actually need those cards. So I have multiple Yeast packages
that have Intruder Alarm in it, you're saying. Did I open one of these? I don't think I did. I think so. I am not going as I'm not going as sweaty as Mr. Combo is in these, but I think you touch on one of the main win cons, which is the big X spells for damage, right? That's like one of the bigger ways that you can go there, right? So my particular thing I was going with, which you can also play, this also plays into it, right? Is something like
redundancy.
It's like Electro Dominance, which is X red. It's an instant. It deals X damage to any target. You may cast a spell with converted mana cost X or less from your hand without paying its mana cost. So obviously, if you do this sort of rigmarole, you can blast someone in the face. And then I'm not planning on running piles of them, but extra turn spells like Temporal Mastery or something like that that are repeatable to pull out of the graveyard. Or I'm sorry, not Temporal. Temporal Manipulation instead of that one. Just take an extra turn spell. So, and there is, so using our powers combined on the big X spells for damage, now we have multiple routes of being able to take the extra turn to find the pieces that we need for that. But I do like how this still somehow in this Rube Goldberg machine contraption that you built, it still ends up with like a big X spell. So it's a little, it's definitely sweaty. I will say that Rhino Replication is an all-star in this deck, as it is in Mizzix, and I have a copy of it already. So I'm excited to see that. Come to fruition here as well.
Well, there you go. So quick pause. Was Electro Dominance your Yeast card?
Yeah.
Okay. All right, so my second Yeast, we are still using Arcane Adaptation.
Okay.
So we still need everything to be a Wizard Harry. Here's how we're going to get a little sweaty. And I believe you already have a copy that's not going to be getting used. So what you need, and you don't even need your commander on the battlefield for this, but the Locust God, 4 colorless is it. Whenever you draw a card, create a 1/1 blue and red insect creature token with flying and haste. It has flying itself. It's a 4/4. You can pay 2 colorless is it, draw a card, then discard a card. And when it dies, return it to its owner's hand at the beginning of the next end step. You are just using it for whenever you draw a card, create a 1/1 blue red insect creature token with flying. So you have that. But then you're also going to have Azami, Lady of the Scrolls, or Lady of Scrolls. So this one says, tap an untapped wizard you control, draw a card. Well, with that and Locust God, you draw out your entire deck. But we're not going for the Lab Man win here, because we did talk about using lots and lots of tokens and creating a lot of that. Well, what guy loves tokens entering the battlefield more than Perforos, God of the Forge? 3 colorless red, and whenever another creature enters the battlefield under your control, it deals 2 damage to each opponent. So now you got another 4-card Rude Goldberg. Draw your deck, you kill everyone. What do you think?
Did you miss the whole point of how I'm trying to get away from this? Because these are the almost part and parcel win cons that I had in the Locust God, the deck that I tore apart. Yes, it is. Yes, it is.
You did Arcane Adaptation, Azami, Locust God, and Perforos.
I did not do those exact combinations of cards, but in Locust God, I had loops that would make me infinite, or not infinite. It would make me piles of those 1/1 tokens that would trigger Perforos, and then you keep going through there. None of these cards are
going real slow.
I've heard one wizard card, Harry, if you will, or Dresden. That's a deep cut for you, Scooty Shuffles, friend of the show, drink. It's like, I think it's hysterical where the idea is to take away all this stuff that we're talking about and just build it like a Wizard's deck, Harry.
I didn't say I was going to build it like a Wizard Harry deck. I'm trying to do the thing because Wizards is a boring ass tribe. Wizard Harry, off. It's a boring tribe, and this is a way to spice it up where you don't just put. It's like when you get on me about like my elf deck not being all elves. Like all elves is boring as hell. I need to have some beasts and stuff in here. So this gives you some diversity. But then if you do the cute thing with the Arcane Adaptation or that artifact, then you make everything into wizards. Right, but then the synergy.
You're hinging that. You're hinging one card in the deck that I can't tutor up because it's not a wizard Harry to drive all these other infinite combos to turn things that aren't wizard Harrys into wizard Harrys.
I'm sorry, isn't Gamble a card that you could run in this deck?
Oh, I do like that. So okay, I can run an Exhume and put Arcane Adaptation directly into my graveyard, and then cannot get it back.
And then you could also run Tybalt, a quote unquote the best planeswalker ever.
Dude, I'm thinking about putting him in anyways.
Question, which one? There's a new one.
Oh my god.
Yeah. So I can't run the new one because it's out of the color spells. So I will say that my card, the way I was going to build this is if I can't do big dumb spells, if I can't do big X spells for damage, then I would want to win through Wizard Harry combat. And there's a lot of ways to do this, but the one I think that shines the most is Adeliz the Cinder Wind. Colorless and is it for a legendary creature, human wizard Harry. Flying haste, when you cast an instant or sorcery spell, wizards you control get +1/+1 until end of turn. The passionate intensity of the Gitu tempered by the cool insight of Totalitarian training. It's a 2/2. So if I only have a board full of, if I only have drawn cantrips and I have a board full of wizard Harrys, then I can bounce those off, keep them going, keep the train going, and go into combat, which is where I was trying to get at the beginning of the deck tech, where I can win through combat as well, assuming that they have haste and that sort of thing.
Well, you know it'd be great because if you had Locust God on the battlefield, all your wizard Harry insects would have haste.
If I had Arcane Adaptation and then they were wizard Harrys. Yes. Okay.
I mean, this is fine. I just think I don't know how much you're going to be able to loop spells in this. Because you're going to need ways to untap. To be able to use Kaza multiple times. And if you're not doing, Intruder Alarm, Arcane Adaptation things, I just don't know how you're going to do it.
You just do it the old-fashioned way with Squeeze Special, Mage.
Passing the turn.
Yeah, exactly. Mage Right Stone. All right, what's your last working roll you got for me? I just switched mine up, but I got one that's going to make even you happy.
Okay. This one is the sweaty one. It's...
sweatier than the other two?
Sweaty in all of your picks so far.
Sorry. Slimy. It's slimy.
Middle of the road.
Because you basically cast one card, and as long as you have enough mana for the second, you win the game. But it takes a lot of cards to get there.
Okay.
So you're going to start off with casting Enter the Infinite.
Right. Okay.
8 colorless, 4 blue, sorcery, draw cards equal to the number of cards in your library, then put a card from your hand on top of your library. You have no maximum hand size until your next turn. Don't have an idea. Have all of them. Niv Mizzet.
There's a boy putting that down too. All of him are coming in the deck as well.
You tap Kaza, reduce this as much as you can. Try to get it down as low as possible. You, hopefully, hadn't drawn the card yet, but you're then going to play Show and Tell. 2 colorless blue. Each player may put an artifact, creature, enchantment, or land card from their hand onto the battlefield. At the Academy, Show and Tell too often becomes Run and Hide. And then, of course, you plop down your old boy Omniscience, allowing you to play whatever you want from free from your hand. And then you either go Labman, which is a human wizard Harry.
Ooh.
And it basically says when you draw a card and you don't have no cards in your deck, you win the game. Jace, Wielder of Mysteries, you could plus it, same type of deal. Or Thassa's Oracle, ETB, same type of thing. And then if you did go the Labman route, just some way to draw a card. It is the slimiest one, or you could even call it greasy. The reason I put it slimy is because Show and Tell could backfire and you could get screwed. But this could be all else fails. X spells haven't done it. I haven't had to discard Omniscience and this other stuff. Let's hopefully just pay maybe 6 mana, Enter the Infinite, have at least 3 for Show and Tell, Omniscience, win with drawing out my deck, what would that take? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, maybe 6 cards to do it.
You always toss me shit about how I choose to cut cards from your deck that you always give me shit that I choose to cut cards from your deck that I know you won't cut. None of these cards are cards that I'm remotely interested in. Omniscience.
You didn't tell me what you were interested in.
I told you exactly what it is. It's wizards and it's tuned down Mizzix. Enter the Infinite. These are all just infinite combo cards.
But it is so sweaty how many things it takes to get it done.
Why would I do that? It's a nightmare.
You're fun.
I like the effort, and I do like how these are super drawn out and frail. So you got me there. So I'm gonna do you a solid, and I'm gonna put my N1. It's so greasy you can't even eat it because it'll destroy your intestinal tract. I'm putting in a 2-card infinite combo right now. That you can do. God. I think you can do it at sorcery speed. So you just gotta figure out.
I think you need to redact a lot of previous episodes of ranting about 2-card infinite combos. Then.
Yeah, for real. I'm over here giving you 6 cards.
I'm not gonna put it in the deck, but now that we forced down this route, we can accomplish this thing way easier. 2 cards. 1, Twin Flame, colorless and a red, sorcery, stride. This spell costs 2 colorless and red more to cast for each target beyond the first. Choose any number of target creatures you control. For each of them, create a token that's a copy of that creature, except it has haste. Exile those tokens at the beginning of the next end step. So you do that with our old pal dual caster mage, which is very straightforward. Colorless and a red, colorless double red. And when he enters the battlefield, he also happens to be a Wizard Harry. 2/2/1 with flash. When he enters the battlefield, copy target instant or sorcery spell. You may choose new targets for the copy. So what you can do is you cast Twin Flame on Kaza, right? Then for 3, you put in a dual caster mage, copy that dual caster mage resolves, the Twin Flame goes on the stack, you copy the dual caster mage, it copies the Twin Flame, and then you have infinite 2/2 hasting tokens. There you go. 2 cards.
And then you collect your Boy Scout badge for Degen.
Yeah, exactly. And then there you go. 2 cards that you can tutor up, one of which perfectly because you can Wizard Harry cycle for the human Wizard Harry dual caster mage.
But I mean, at that point, you could just run Kiki Jiki Zealous Conscripts and win that way.
But he is not a Wizard Harry.
Well, he would be a Wizard Harry if you ran Arcane Adaptation.
Well, sure. You're just turning this into a shell of an infinite combo deck that just happens to run Wizard Harrys. That's all it is.
Hey, my first one was an infinite combo. My second one is not infinite combo because it only goes for how many cards you have in your deck. And the third one isn't infinite; it's a wombo.
You're turning it into a wombo deck that has nothing to do with the commander or the Wizard Harry.
That is not true. Literally, the first and the third one need your commander to help reduce.
Right,
the
but
mana.
if you had the mana to do it, you could just do it straight out.
Sure, but you could say that about your X spells too.
That's fine. But you also are hinging this on Arcane Adaptation, which you shouldn't need in a tribal Wizard Harry deck to begin with.
But you could just go ahead and run all wizards and cut that card. I'm trying to get it to where you don't have to be locked down.
Yeah.
Off.
Wizard Hermione's?
F off both of you. Both go to hell. I want to fucking Avada Kedavra both of you. In
what? Is that a Harry Potter reference?
I'm going to kill you in kill you in but see, here's the thing, though. It's just like wizards are boring as hell. There's some cool ones that have some cool tap effects, but now you're allowed to branch out a little bit and start diving into some of these other ones, which we'll get into in the Spice package. So let's head to Spice. BigTuck. We're going to talk about 2 cards each. What is a spicy card you think would be worth putting in your Wizard Harry deck? Because apparently you can only have Wizard Harry.
Yes, and I'm continuing that trend. This was one of the first Wizard Harrys ever. He's been a card that's been around for forever, and he doesn't really have a place in this deck outside of the fact that he's a Wizard Harry and that he has a certain amount of he has a very long running history in the history of Magic. So I'm gonna read from the first printing, which is Prodigal Sorcerer. 2 colorless and a blue creature, human Wizard Harry. Tap, Prodigal Sorcerer deals 1 damage to any target. Occasionally, a member of the Institute of Arcane Study acquires taste for worldly pleasures. seldom do they have trouble finding employment. So, is this a good card?
I have a literal stack of these you can have, by the way.
I know. I have piles of them too. So, is this a great card? No. Is it even a good Wizard Harry? Also no. But this card had such an impact on the game of Magic when it came out and was so widely spread that it earned the first nickname. So we call Sakura Tribe Elder Steve, right? Because it's so widely played. This was Tim, based off of Monty Python and the Holy Grail. So back in the day, when I first started playing and was reading Duelist magazines, Tim was all the rage because he could pick off all sorts of creatures. So this is definitely be a spice pick, not because of like the outlandish ability it has, but just because it's such a lore and Magic history, and it happens to be a Wizard Harry. Last thing I'll say is it's been color shifted. There's also Prodigal Pyromancer that does the exact same thing, just happens to be in red.
Not good.
No, not at all.
Wouldn't run it. And I'm moving on from this because it's just...
That might be the best synopsis of anything I've ever heard.
Not good.
Not good?
All right. My first spice card. This is where I actually think Kaza's... She can make it work, because apparently if you're running all effing Sorcerer or Wizard Harrys, and you're not going to run Arcane Adaptation, you're probably going to cap out at maybe 5 to 6, but if you run it, you probably have 15 to 20 Wizards on the battlefield, but that's neither here nor there. But I think double X spells could have a home.
Sure, yeah. In
a Kaza Roil Chaser build. So I think Mass Manipulation.
Oh, sure, yeah.
Is really, really good. XX, blue. Sorcery. Those who cross the Dimir find enemies everywhere they are. Turn. That's right. Gain control of X target creatures and or planeswalkers. Wizards is that weird
Wizards what?
Sub-tribe.
Wizard Harry's what?
Wizard Harry's are such a popular tribe, not from people playing it, but it seems like WotC, so I don't have to say the H word.
Nice.
They seem to do wizards as subtypes.
Yes,
a lot of times. Like you've heard me and Tuck talk about, like, I can't believe this card's a Wizard Harry as well. So I think there could be incidentally wizards on the battlefield that you could steal.
Wizards what? I'm sorry. Wizard Harry's what? Sorry, you're breaking up there.
Oh my
God.
It's
a little confusing what you're saying. I don't understand the
cut to Mr. Combo the second this is over. Just chugging rum.
So I think there's enough that could be incidentally on the battlefield that you could end up gaining an advantage of maybe 1 to 3 on your board.
Right.
But I think the Planeswalkers could actually be a big piece. Like I don't know if there's really that many Planeswalkers that deserve to be in your Sorcerer theme deck. But I do think that there's Planeswalkers that it's kind of like that Fringe thing, to where if you had like 120 cards in front of you, if you had 7 Planeswalkers, you'd probably end up cutting them, but you would still like to have. Being able to snag those is really, really nice. Plus being able to grab the target creatures, like for the Rite of Replication type of effects. I think it's really cool.
Yeah, I agree.
So I think if you had a sub-tribe of double X spells, that's something that Kaza could support, and that would actually be kind of neat to see.
Yeah, that would be awesome. This card's really good. It's definitely like a big finisher, and it's less of like from a lasagna tier, if you will. I like how the other opponents can still board wipe, and then like the game can keep going. It's not just like an I win card, a la like a Comet Storm or something like that. So I'm into it, man, big time.
Cool. What is your last spice?
So, who doesn't have 2 thumbs and likes casting instants and sorceries and flipping coins? It's this guy. We are talking about my old pal Crack the Thumbless, fresh off the presses. Colorless and a red legendary creature, and this is shocking, Goblin Wizard Harry, for whatever reason, right? Like, it's insane. Whenever you cast an instant or sorcery spell, flip a coin. If you lose the flip, return that spell to its owner's hand. If you win the flip, copy that spell. You may choose new targets for the copy, and it has partners. Double or nothing. Yeah, so this was a fun card. I like it a lot. We talked about this, I think, off mic, about how this particular Wizard Harry could go into a lot of decks just to spice it up a little bit, give it a little bit of chance. I like the fact, too, that when you're casting these spells, there is obviously like inherent risk in it, right? Where you do your big thing, you cast your big X spell, and then if you flip the coin and if you lose it, then you're just kind of like SOL, right? The thing I like about it though is that because Kaza is a repeatable effect to some extent, right? Insofar as either you can untap or you can wait another turn and do it later, the bouncing back to hand isn't as bad as it going to the graveyard or fizzling. And then in my opinion, the risk of the upside, because I'm a maniac and I love, again, this is just another sub game to throw into it. This is another one that kind of makes it a little more fun, a little bit more unique. I think this also, to your point, can kind of power up some of your early X spells, right? Your early value trains that you're running out quickly with Kaza, and the fact that he's a 2/2 for 2, and he's a Wizard Harry. It's definitely a spice pick. It's definitely out there in the ether, but I think it'd be just a thing to add some pepper to this stout.
It's definitely spice through and through. I do not see a place where this should be in the deck, but I mean, I guess if you just want your sub game that you do on your own, okay, have at it, you maniac.
I know, right? I'm going wild, man. I'm breaking out of Mystics.
All right, my last spice, because you have this theme of X in the deck. Neither one's a wizard. Deal with it.
Wizard Harry won.
But
I was pretty sure there was a Harry that was supposed to be.
Did I cut out there for a second? There's times.
Mr. Combo just did a deep yoga moment.
I've known Mr. Combo for a really long time, and there's been a lot of times in our friendship where I'm really happy he's a staunch non-gun owner. Or else I'd have to lock my doors tonight, double lock them.
So this card generates infinite mana as long as there is at least 3 artifacts or enchantments under your opponent's control, which if you need to get to your game finisher, maybe Kaza's been removed 18 different times, this can get it done. Dockside Extortion, colorless black, ETB, create your treasures, but then you pair it with Deadeye Navigator, where you can soul bond them, and then so Deadeye Navigator costs 4 colorless blue, Dockside's a colorless red. Deadeye, when it ETBs or another creature ETBs, you can soul bond them together, which they're kind of like snow bunnies or Eskimo brothers at that point. And when Dockside ETBs, you create treasures equal to the number of artifacts enchantments your opponents control, and then it says as long as Deadeye is paired with another creature, each of those creatures has pay a colorless blue, exile this creature, then return it to the battlefield under your control. So basically, as long as someone has a total between your opponents have 3 artifacts enchantments, you can blink it forever and go ahead and get infinite, at least 1 treasure, pump it into an X spell, because Kaza being 2, you're going to be tempted to get that going early, but I think it is one of those things, even though she has haste, when people start seeing what you're trying to do, it's going to be board wipes. It's going to be target removal, trying to keep, especially if you have 5 or 6 or 7 or 8 Wizard Harrys. It's worth it to waste a murder on her and then make you have to now spend 4 to cast it, or 6 or 8 or 10. Eventually, it'll be too expensive for you. And at that point, your other wizards aren't Harrys, aren't doing anything for you.
Good job. Good catch.
They aren't really helping you. They're just kind of there as supplement. So at least you could play Dockside early. You know, and that happens. Sometimes people play Dockside turn 4 or 5.
Right.
Oh, I got like 3 treasures out of it. No one's going to think to remove Dockside anymore. And it's be like, oh, Deadeye doesn't resolve. Okay, blink it out. It's kind of like you're jerking it, and get your infinite mana. So I think you need games to end someday.
Sure.
And wizard combat being your sub way to end the game is a terrible idea.
What combat?
It could also be referred to as Harry combat. Just a thought.
Yeah, sure. You can put this in any Izzet deck, so for me, it's not particularly what I'm trying to do here. I do understand. I get the gist of you can't keep playing the Wizard Harry game forever, and they have to end. So if I like that. If I was going to do that, though, I think I'd be more willing to do one of your 9-card combos to do it that way, as opposed to this one. But I see where you're going. I also don't own a Dockside,
well,
so
even if you. Oh, that's right. You didn't buy that pre-con. Because I was about to say, even if you didn't want to do those 2 cards, you should at least put Dockside in the deck, just because you did talk about how it doesn't really ramp. So being able to play that even super late game and get 5 or 6 or 8 treasures, it's going to do a lot of work for you.
I'm surprised you want to talk about Dockside after our last our last discussion of the card.
Yeah, well, anyways. Well, guys, we're not at the end of the episode because I've been doing something while we've been recording. So BigTuck, we will share this out. As we've been talking about the cards, I've been putting them into Tapped Out. So we can see
sweet.
CMC, color distribution, how many cards did we add to the deck, and what's the rough budget looking like right now. So right now, your deck is looking 75% blue to 25% red.
Check.
Wow.
Sounds about right. We got 34 cards in the deck. 20 of them are creatures.
Hey, we're there.
3 instants. Yeah. 3 instants, 7 sorceries, 3 enchantments, and planeswalker, but not a single artifact. The deck budget is ranging between 140 and 170 on TCG
Good
Player.
Lord.
Palpable.
And your average CMC is a shade under 4.
Oof.
Now, here's a question. Does Tapped Out have a Wizard Harry meter?
Great question.
And I'll take your silence as a yes.
Well, is it maybe it's in beta, or like it's in UAT test? It's like in UAT or regression testing or something. I mean, it's clearly.
Oh, sorry. No,
it's clearly
it's associated with Voldemort. So then,
there we go.
It's complicated how it goes back and forth. You know, they're tied together.
Hey, just wait. Hey,
anyways, Mr. Combos left the episode.
The best news about this is we get to repeat this entire bit in just a few short months when we talk about the new Wizard Harry set that's coming out in March.
Guys, I'm sorry that you made it to the end of the episode. And we would just like 1-star reviews, terrible comments. You might as well unsubscribe from us right now.
Death threats
whatever
to
platform you're watching.
Death threats to BigTuck would be great.
Whatever platform you were watching or listening to us on. If you would like to find out more ways to reach out to us, which I don't know why you would, here's how you would do that. You can reach me at Mr. Combo number 5 on Twitter, all spelled out except for the 5.
You also have to type it while you're depressed.
Where can they reach you?
My fellow Wizard Harrys and Wizard Hermiones, you can also find me on the Tweeterverse at BigTuck Tweeting. I took a pretty big hiatus over the January bit because I was sick of seeing the same thing over and over again, but I'm hoping to get back into it.
You can reach our main account at CMDTower on Twitter as well. You can also go to our website, CMDTower.com. Basically, all you got to type in is Squee McGee. If people want to find out how to get a hold of yourself, how would they do that?
It's wizardharry at cmdtower.com. You can find me on Twitter at wizardharry, and you can also reach out to me on Facebook or Instagram at wizardharry.
If you want to support us as well as hook up our sponsor for the orders you're already doing, head over to level1gameshop.com. And when you place an order in the order notes, just type out CMD Tower so they know that you came from
/Wizard Harry.
Outside of their own storefront, they also have a TCG store. Buy things, it helps. You can support us at our Patreon, patreon.com/CMD Tower. 4 different pledge levels. Rewards vary all over the place. Plus, there's monthly giveaways. You should go do it. We also have a store, cmdtower.com/merch. Thank you to Pink Royal. Tuck, end of episode. Oh, God, I have to say it. You're a wizard, Kaza. How do you feel your deck is looking?
Well, you know what? I was pretty excited about this coming out the gates. I'm excited to bin these things, and I gotta admit, it definitely helped that this was finally the episode that we broke Mr. Combo. I've seen corpses before. I've been to funerals, and I'm seeing that same dead-eyed look in his vibrant face. It's not just because he probably isn't sleeping very much. So no, I'm really excited. I like your picks up front. I think those are all awesome. I think you might be onto something with the intruder alarm. So I might just start with that and see where we go. But yeah, so I'm pretty pumped about putting this together sometime in the near future, and seeing how my Wizard Harry deck can roll.
Well,
can Roil? You believe?
Oh, nice.
How your Wizard Harry deck can Roil?
So I will say I'm a little disappointed in you, just because I figured you'd be all about the ridiculous turning everything into Wizard Harry's and trying to use that for other stuff. I thought that would be your weird niche. So I'm a little disappointed. I'm
willing. The Wizard Harry combos that you talked about, and putting them together, I think all those cards I own most of, if not all of, already. So, and they're mostly cheap. So if I play it and the Wizard Harry build isn't working, then maybe I can swap them out pretty quickly.
And if you think about it, take out Perforos and then Prodigal Sorcerer. Every time he enters the battlefield, you untap him with Intruder Alarm. He deals the damage to a creature or player. Sure. There you go. You start machine gunning stuff. Just be real weird with it, and it'll be okay. Well, I have to get the hell out of here, because if I hear one more Wizard Harry, I'm going to vomit.
Even from your own lips?
I'm a Wizard Harry!